Brooke Logan, radiant as ever but with the faint trace of worry shadowing her eyes, sensed that something in her world was shifting, though she couldn't name it yet. She'd fought through betrayals, heartbreaks, and the tangled web of love triangles that had defined her life, but nothing, not even her most brutal heartbreaks with Ridge, could prepare her for the truth that was about to shatter her from the inside out. The day started innocently enough, a conversation with Hope about Thomas, about whether she could really trust him again, and about how Ridge seemed distant lately, but somewhere between those casual moments, the ground beneath her began to tremble. Brooke had always prided herself on being able to sense danger in her relationships, to feel betrayal before it fully struck, but this time she was blind. The secret wasn't coming from an enemy, nor from a lover. It was coming from deep within her family, the one place she always thought was her anchor. The whispers began softly, with Donna's hesitations, with Hope's nervous glances, with Ridge's unexplained absences and defensiveness when she asked where he had been. Brooke wanted to believe it was nothing. After all, Ridge had changed, hadn't he? They had fought so hard to get to this point, to reclaim what destiny had taken from them time and time again. Yet destiny, it seemed, was never done playing cruel games with her. The first crack appeared in the form of a file folder, a simple manila folder left on the Forrester desk, one that wasn't meant for Brooke's eyes. Inside, hidden beneath invoices and design notes, was a document that would send her heart into freefall. It was a DNA report, and the names listed on it made no sense. She read them twice, 3 times, her pulse hammering so violently that the words blurred. It was a paternity test, one connecting Ridge, but not to any of his known children. Instead, it linked him to someone she'd never imagined could be biologically his. A child, or rather an adult now, whose existence had been hidden for decades. Brooke's breath caught, her knees buckled. She stumbled back, gripping the edge of the desk, her mind racing through possibilities. Could it be a mistake? Some twisted joke? But the dates, the signatures, they were all legitimate. She wanted to confront Ridge immediately, but fear held her back. Fear that if she asked the question out loud, she'd hear the one answer that would end her world. When Ridge came home that evening, everything seemed normal. He kissed her cheek, poured a drink, and started talking about designs for the new line, but Brooke couldn't hear a word he said. All she could see were those names, Ridge Forrester and the unknown mother listed only by initials. BL, her initials. Her entire body went cold. She whispered, "Ridge, what is this?" and handed him the folder. For a brief, flickering second, she saw something in his eyes, a flash of panic, a flicker of guilt. He tried to speak, to explain, but his voice faltered. "Brooke, please, it's not what you think." But it was exactly what she thought. Or worse. As the truth poured out, it hit her with the force of a tidal wave. The child wasn't someone else's, it was hers. The result of a decision made long ago, one that she had buried so deeply in her past she thought it would never surface again. Years ago, before Ridge, and after one of her many turbulent breakups, Brooke had found herself in a situation she never spoke about. A brief affair, a pregnancy, and a decision to give the baby up for adoption. She had done it out of fear, out of shame, believing she was protecting everyone involved. She never even told Ridge. And now, decades later, that secret had been unearthed, but with an impossible twist. DNA revealed that Ridge was the biological father. Somehow, the timing, the circumstances, the details that never seemed to align had converged in a way that made the unthinkable real. The child she thought she had lost to the past was Ridge's, and that child had been living a life intertwined with theirs in ways they never imagined. The revelation detonated like a bomb. Ridge was silent, unable to meet her eyes, while Brooke's entire body trembled with rage and disbelief. "You knew," she accused him, tears burning her eyes. "You knew, and you didn't tell me." Ridge tried to explain that he had only found out recently, that he'd been waiting for the right time, but to Brooke, every word felt like betrayal. The man who had promised her truth had once again kept secrets that rewrote her history. She screamed that he had destroyed her trust for the last time, that destiny was a lie, that every vow they made was built on sand. It wasn't just about the baby, it was about everything. Every time Ridge had chosen Taylor, every time he'd judged her for her past, every time he'd claimed to be the moral center of their family. Now it was clear. Ridge had been complicit in the one secret that could obliterate her sense of self. Brooke's mind spiraled. Who was the child? Where were they now? And then, in one horrifying moment, the answer clicked. The child wasn't a stranger. It was someone she already knew, someone who had been part of their world for years without anyone realizing the truth. It was Luna. Luna Nozawa, the young designer who had captivated everyone with her talent and charm, who had connected with Ridge professionally and emotionally in ways that had always unsettled Brooke. Suddenly, the pieces fell into place. The reason Ridge had been protective of Luna, the quiet tension between them, it wasn't attraction, it was paternal instinct. Luna was their daughter. The daughter Brooke never raised, never even knew she had lost. Her heart broke open in that moment, a flood of guilt and grief consuming her. She had spent her life fighting for her family, for her children, and now she discovered that one of her own had been right there all along, alienated, judged, even punished, while Brooke herself had condemned her unknowingly. The scene that followed was pure devastation. Brooke collapsed onto the floor, sobbing uncontrollably as Ridge tried to comfort her, but she shoved him away. "Don't touch me," she cried. "You took this from me. You took her from me." She couldn't process it. The betrayal, the lost years, the cruel irony that while she'd been defending her children, she'd ignored the one she'd unknowingly abandoned. She thought of every cruel word she'd said to Luna, every time she'd doubted her place in the family, and the shame was unbearable. Ridge tried to explain how he discovered the truth, how Poppy had come forward privately after Luna's arrest, revealing the DNA results that linked Ridge and Brooke to Luna, but by then it was too late. The damage was done. Brooke's entire world unraveled. Hope tried to console her, but Brooke pushed everyone away. She locked herself in her bedroom, replaying her life like a movie of mistakes, every affair, every marriage, every moral judgment, and realizing that fate had been mocking her all along. The woman who had spent her life being called a homewrecker, a temptress, a scandal, had finally learned that her greatest sin wasn't passion, it was ignorance. She had abandoned her own child. For days, Brooke vanished from the public eye. Ridge searched for her, terrified she'd do something reckless, while Eric, Donna, and Katie struggled to contain the fallout. The Forresters and the Logans were at war again, but this time the battlefield was soaked in blood ties and regret. Luna, meanwhile, was left reeling. When Poppy revealed the truth to her, Luna was stunned into silence. She'd always sensed a strange connection to Ridge, but the idea that Brooke, the woman who'd resented her, was her biological mother was almost too much to bear. Luna didn't know whether to reach out or to run. When Brooke finally reappeared, she was transformed. Gone was the confident, glamorous woman the world knew. In her place was someone haunted, stripped raw by the truth. She went straight to Luna, trembling, eyes full of tears. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I swear to you, I didn't know." Luna didn't respond right away. She just looked at Brooke, searching for sincerity, for some piece of herself in the woman who had condemned her. And when she finally spoke, her words cut like glass. "You didn't want to know." Brooke collapsed into sobs, begging for forgiveness, but Luna turned away, saying she needed time to understand what this meant, time to heal from the mother who had unknowingly hurt her so deeply. In the weeks that followed, the fallout consumed everyone. Ridge faced the wrath of not just Brooke, but of Steffi and Thomas, who accused him of yet again destroying their family for secrets he thought he could control. Hope tried to bridge peace between Luna and Brooke, but the emotional wounds ran too deep. Brooke's identity as mother, lover, matriarch was shattered. The secret had destroyed her world, not because of what it revealed, but because of what it took. Her peace, her faith, her sense of purpose. She spent nights wandering the beach alone, staring at the waves and whispering Luna's name into the wind, begging the universe for a second chance. Meanwhile, Luna's presence became the center of every conversation. Some saw her as innocent, a victim of fate, while others whispered that she was manipulating everyone, using her newfound lineage for power. But Luna wanted nothing to do with power. She only wanted truth. She began digging into her past, finding out what had led Poppy to keep the secret all these years. It turned out that Poppy herself hadn't known the truth. She had been told that Luna's father was another man entirely. Only a recent genetic test, connected to her legal troubles, had revealed the shocking paternity match. The truth had blindsided her as much as anyone else. The climax came when Brooke, Ridge, and Luna faced each other in the Forrester office, the place where it had all begun. Brooke, her voice shaking but resolute, said she wanted to make amends, to be the mother she never had the chance to be. Luna listened, silent, as Ridge stood between them, the weight of guilt heavy on his shoulders. And then, in a moment that silenced the entire family, Brooke fell to her knees, clutching Luna's hands and whispering, "You are my heart. You always were, even when I didn't know it." Luna's tears fell freely as she finally embraced Brooke, and for the first time in what felt like forever, there was a flicker of hope amid the wreckage. Yet the damage couldn't be undone overnight. The family fractured, trust shattered, and the question of whether Brooke and Ridge could ever recover from this hung heavy in the air. For Brooke, this wasn't just another scandal, it was the ultimate reckoning. She had always believed she could survive anything, that love and forgiveness could conquer every storm. But this time, forgiveness wasn't guaranteed. The secret had destroyed her world, not by taking something from her, but by revealing the pieces of herself she'd lost along the way. As the credits roll on this explosive chapter of The Bold and the Beautiful, fans are left breathless, wondering if Brooke can ever truly rebuild, or if this revelation marks the end of her storied reign as the woman who could love, lose, and rise again. Because even for Brooke Logan, who has weathered every scandal the show could throw at her, this one, the secret child, the betrayal, the years lost, might be the heartbreak she never recovers from. But in the days following that tearful reunion with Luna, the cracks that had been temporarily sealed began to widen again, because healing, Brooke quickly realized, was not a single moment of forgiveness, but an endless process of rediscovering herself through pain. Every time she saw Luna, a mixture of joy and sorrow coursed through her veins. The joy of having found the daughter she thought was gone forever, and the sorrow of knowing she had missed every milestone, every birthday, every tear. She tried to reach out gently, offering lunch dates and small conversations about life, about Forrester designs, about the mother-daughter bond she desperately wanted to build, but Luna was cautious, guarded, still carrying the weight of betrayal. She respected Brooke, yes, but trust was harder. The revelation had torn apart the fragile stability Luna had built, and now she struggled to understand where she belonged, not as a designer, not as a scandal survivor, but as a daughter suddenly thrust into the Logan Forrester dynasty. The family dinners were awkward minefields. Donna's warmth couldn't erase the tension, Katie's quiet sympathy couldn't bridge the distance, and Ridge's attempts to play peacemaker only made everything worse. Steffi, fierce and loyal to a fault, wasn't ready to embrace Luna as a sister. "She's not one of us," Steffi hissed to Ridge in a heated confrontation that Brooke overheard by accident. That one sentence shattered Brooke all over again. How could she expect Luna to feel safe when her own family was drawing invisible lines? The media caught wind of the story soon after. Whispers of a hidden child, of Brooke's long-buried secret, and suddenly her private heartbreak became public fodder. The tabloids printed headlines like "Brooke Logan's hidden daughter rocks the Forresters" and "Scandal Queen strikes again." It was the kind of humiliation Brooke had spent her life fighting to escape, and this time, she couldn't deny or spin it. Every photo of her and Luna together was dissected, every gesture analyzed. Ridge wanted to protect them, to release a statement framing it as a family matter, but Brooke refused. "No," she told him firmly, eyes blazing through tears. "This time I'm not hiding. I've lived my whole life covering shame with glamour, pretending mistakes are lessons. But this is my truth. And I'm not ashamed anymore. For the first time in decades, Brooke chose honesty over image, standing before reporters and acknowledging her story. I made choices I thought were right at the time, she said, her voice shaking. And I lost someone I loved before I even knew her. I will spend the rest of my life making that right. The press, for once, saw something different in her, not scandal, but strength. Meanwhile, Ridge spiraled privately. He'd been the architect of too many secrets, and this one weighed heavier than all the rest. His guilt consumed him, the knowledge that he discovered the truth weeks before Brooke did, that he'd allowed her to walk around blissfully unaware while he carried the burden in silence. He'd told himself he was protecting her, sparing her from pain, but deep down, he knew it was fear of losing her once again. Late at night, he sat alone in his design office, sketching meaningless lines, the whiskey glass untouched beside him, as memories of their life together flooded back. The first time he kissed her, the first time he lost her, the countless times he swore they were destiny. Destiny, he realized bitterly, had become their curse. Taylor appeared one evening, having heard about the scandal, her tone soft but edged with concern. You can't fix this for her, Ridge, she said. You have to let her rebuild in her own way. Stop trying to control everything. But Ridge didn't know how to do that. Control had always been his armor. Luna, on the other hand, found herself at a crossroads. The Forrester name opened doors she never thought possible, but every compliment about her talent now felt tainted. You're only getting this because you're Brooke's daughter, she heard whispered in the corridors. Even Hope, though kind and welcoming, struggled to navigate the complex shift from rival to sister. Brooke saw the pain in Luna's eyes and tried to intervene, defending her publicly and praising her work at every opportunity. But Luna didn't want sympathy. She wanted to earn her place. When she presented her first solo design collection at Forrester Creations, the room fell silent. The line was breathtaking, bold, emotional, a fusion of Logan romanticism and Forrester precision, and when the applause erupted, Brooke wept openly. For a brief, shining moment, mother and daughter locked eyes across the runway, and Brooke thought, maybe this is how healing begins, one creation, one shared heartbeat at a time. But peace never lasts long in their world. Bill Spencer re-entered the picture, drawn by the chaos and opportunity that always surrounded Brooke. He visited her under the pretense of concern, but his motives were murky. Part affection, part curiosity, part strategy. You don't owe Ridge anything, Bill told her one night, voice low and persuasive. He's done this to you over and over. Maybe it's time you put yourself first for once. Brooke wanted to dismiss him, but his words lingered. Ridge's secrecy had reopened old wounds, and despite her love for him, she wondered if she could ever truly trust him again. Bill offered her something Ridge never could: control, autonomy, and a chance to rewrite her legacy on her own terms. She didn't answer him then, but the seed was planted. The tension exploded one stormy night when Ridge came home to find Bill there, comforting Brooke after another painful confrontation with Steffi. The argument that followed was volcanic. Ridge accused Bill of exploiting Brooke's pain, while Bill fired back that Ridge had no right to lecture anyone about honesty. You've been lying to her for 30 years, Bill shouted. Every time she forgives you, you give her another reason to regret it. Brooke tried to intervene, but the damage was done. Ridge stormed out, leaving Brooke trembling, torn between fury and despair. Later, alone, she whispered to her reflection, maybe my world had to be destroyed so I could finally see who I really am. It was the first time she truly believed that the destruction might be a kind of rebirth. In the weeks that followed, Brooke began therapy, something she had resisted for years. She confronted her patterns, her endless need to fix the men she loved, her guilt over choices she made as a young woman trying to survive in a judgmental world. The sessions were raw, painful, illuminating. Slowly, she began to rebuild herself from the inside out, not as Ridge's muse or as the Logan matriarch, but as Brooke, flawed, resilient human. Luna noticed the change. Their conversations became easier, more open, filled with small moments of understanding. One afternoon, as they worked side by side in the design studio, Luna softly said, "You don't have to keep apologizing. I just need you to be here now." Those words were the balm Brooke didn't know she needed. For the first time, she felt like she was truly being given a second chance. Yet Ridge, consumed by guilt and jealousy, began to unravel. He threw himself into work, alienating his children and colleagues alike. Thomas confronted him, saying, "You always think you're protecting the people you love, but all you do is lie until they don't trust you anymore." The words hit hard. Ridge realized he was at risk of losing everything: his wife, his children, his legacy. In a desperate attempt to make amends, he organized a private Forrester family dinner, inviting everyone: Brooke, Luna, Hope, Steffi, Thomas, even Bill. It was awkward, tense, but when Ridge stood to speak, his voice was raw. "We've all been hurt by secrets," he said, "but maybe it's time we stop letting them define us." The words weren't poetic, but they were sincere, and for a fleeting instant, there was a sense of unity, fractured, imperfect, but real. As the night ended, Brooke walked out onto the Forrester terrace alone, gazing up at the stars. Ridge approached quietly, asking if there was still hope for them. She turned to him, her eyes reflecting both love and sorrow. "I don't know," she said softly. "I've spent my whole life believing we were destiny. But maybe destiny isn't what you find. Maybe it's what you choose. And right now, I have to choose myself." She walked away, leaving Ridge staring after her, heartbroken yet oddly proud. Because for once, Brooke Logan wasn't being defined by who she loved. She was defining herself. And as the waves crashed beyond the mansion, as the moonlight shimmered on the horizon, it was clear that while Brooke's world had indeed been destroyed, from its ashes something new was being born, a woman who had finally learned that even the most devastating secrets can't kill the will to rise again.